This is Transformation and Regeneration by Jason F. McLennan. How to really make America great again. True greatness and the realization of many of America's healthiest and loftiest ideals will only be realized through a new, authentically honest national dialogue about its past and an honest accounting of who was held down so that others could be lifted. Emerging from that dialogue, we'll need a multi-decade process of active reparations and reconciliation, the process through which a whole nation can greatly heal from its past, honor and acknowledge who has suffered the most, and advance the nation together as a whole. New Zealand, as we know it today, had a similar colonial start as part of the British Empire, whereby a white Christian culture subdued native peoples and took over another cultural tradition entirely. Recently, New Zealand has invested in the kind of process of healing I am promoting the U.S. undertake. Their reconciliation has resulted in a more beautiful, culturally rich nation. It's not perfect, and they would admit they have a long way to go, but it is bringing cultures together in a new and regenerative way. The Australian welcomed a country that opens every meeting and discussion in that colonial country is a constant acknowledgement that reconciliation is not done once and forgotten, but is a living tradition of respect, apology, forgiveness, and unity. More recently, Canada has begun this journey of reconciliation, which has included returning significant native lands to Indigenous control and admitting to and apologizing for terrible policies enacted on First Nations people, like the horrific policy of residential schools and reservations. Reconciliation in the U.S. will perhaps be a more nuanced and complex undertaking than in most countries, where the need exists. The legacy of pain is wide and deep and multifaceted here. The complexity and daunting nature of the issues here result in a nation that generally skirts around the issues at best or denies them altogether. Avoidance is an immature and dangerous trend to carry in the national psyche decade after decade, as it allows for extreme and dangerous views to stay alive that manifest as hate crimes and violence. It also means that the country is at risk of toggling between two ends of an unhealthy spectrum: unapologetic racism on one end and a hypersensitive political correctness on the other. While the latter approach may at times serve to shine a light on the right issues, it also tends to paralyze and polarize by using shame and blame instead of unity, forgiveness, and love. This country has had its moments of greatness. Perhaps America will find its next Martin Luther King, someone who can lead the nation in the kind of honesty that will elevate it to true greatness, where the rights and freedoms of all people are upheld, and ideas and values worth emulating are advanced, perhaps finally approaching what its framing documents set forth as aspirational. I don't know if this leader should be black, white, brown, yellow, man, woman, or transgendered. I do know that white men of substance, those who still represent the culture and gender that has benefited the most from the exploitation of minorities, will have to step up in large numbers. This reconciliation process requires establishing a sustained movement, building on the momentum of various recent social justice campaigns like Black Lives Matter and the Women's March, that somehow reaches across the aisle in a more fulsome, complete, and deep manner. It should not be the black community alone proclaiming that Black Lives Matter. It should not be women alone marching in the streets for gender equality. It is imperative that those who have historically held them back, privileged white men, join in these causes. Reparations do not mean that any single individual today is responsible for the actions of their ancestors. I am not suggesting people should feel shame and guilt and despise their own history in order to elevate the history and culture of historically oppressed peoples. I am quite proud of my Scottish and French heritage. Trading negative energy for negative energy will not be generative. Looking to the past for reparations is an act of healing whereby we can truly acknowledge the pain inflicted by our ancestors on other people. This reflection is not mutually exclusive with being proud of the many wonderful things our culture has produced. Maturity requires that we sit with this nuance and complexity. History happened. It must be acknowledged and stripped of the kind of energy and power that has held this nation back in so many critical ways, while no longer allowing it to be forgotten or brushed under the rug. Part of that process requires recognizing the patterns and the shackles that still exist today, and a willingness to break cycles that continue to repeat and hold many back. Currently, because of the unacknowledged pain and lack of reconciliation, a healthy conversation about race in America doesn't exist.
I'm interested in my people becoming full citizens.
Here, people can't talk about race without being labeled racist, and so they don't. In America, people can't share their experiences freely without touching places of unspoken anger and resentment. In America, everything gets labeled and pushed to one side of a political or social racist divide or another. Mansplaining, whitesplaining, blacksplaining, these words are effectively ending fledgling dialogue by negating the legitimacy of the contributions of entire groups of people around issues that affect us all. This is not the hallmark of maturity or greatness. America can do better.